Tonight, the gloomy economic figures keep coming. 9 out of 10 Scots say they've been hit by rising costs. Businesses are feeling the strain.
We used to pay £350 per month in winter for our electricity, and the recent quote has been £1,500.
Also making the headlines, unions claim there's complete contempt for council workers as talks over a pay deal fail to reach an agreement.
We're live here at the Edinburgh Fringe
as the biggest arts festival in the world gets underway.
In sport, after almost 5 months out, Alfredo Morelos is back in the Rangers squad.
We're at the bowling greens at the Commonwealth Games where Team Scotland have delivered yet another gold medal.
I'm Emma Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. It seems like every day we get more grim news about the economy and the money in our pockets, and today is no exception. Figures from the Office for National Statistics show 88% of Scots say their cost of living has risen in the past month.
The prices of gas, electricity and food are cited as the main reasons. There's bad news too from retailers who say the number of people through their doors last month was down. Here's more from our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
You might think a hairdresser would be insulated from a wider decline in physical shopping. You can't get a cut and blow dry online after all. But at this salon at Edinburgh's Haymarket, soaring electric bills are making it harder to keep going.
We used to pay £350 per month in winter for our electricity, and the recent quote has been £1,500. So to go from £350 to £1,500 is... I just don't know how that can be possible.
Last month, the retail sector saw footfall. The number of people coming through the doors dip, and it's still well down on where it was a few years ago before COVID. The summer heat wave, rail strikes, and the fact so many of us are finding things tough at the moment are all factors. When asked if their cost of living had risen in the past month, 88% of Scots said it had. Among those, 92% said their food shop was costing more. 85% said gas and electric bills were up. 78% said the price of their fuel was higher. Smaller numbers also noted rises in rent or mortgages and public transport. In trying to get by, spending less on non-essentials was the most frequent option, followed by trying to use less energy at home, cutting back on trips in the car, and shopping around more. A third were having to spend less on food and essential items. The latest report on the job market says recruitment is slowing, but there aren't yet fears of rising unemployment.
We think that the labour market will continue to cool, but at the moment there isn't anything in the data that's telling us that we're about to see a sudden upsurge in unemployment. So a softer labour market from here, certainly compared to what we've experienced over the past 12-18 months.
With the Bank of England having forecast a recession tonight, the worry remains the economic picture for all of us will get worse before it gets better. Gordon Cree, STV News, Edinburgh.
Unions have accused the Scottish Government and councils of having complete contempt for workers in a dispute over pay. Local authority leaders failed to agree a fresh offer this morning and have arranged instead to meet again next week.
Thousands of council workers have rejected a 2% pay rise. They're threatening widespread industrial action unless they receive a significant improvement. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
In less than 2 weeks, cleansing workers in Edinburgh are preparing to walk out. That would leave rubbish piling on the streets of the city at the height of the festival season. This morning, council leaders postponed any decision on a fresh pay offer until next week.
My members will be furious at this because what it looks like is that both the Scottish Government and COSLA have complete contempt for this workforce. And the workforce is on their knees, and they are quite frankly sick of being used as a political football between COSLA and the Scottish Government.
Our members are facing fuel poverty, hunger and debt, and what any considerably improved offer needs to tackle some of those problems that our members are feeling. So it will be our members that decide when we get an offer whether it's acceptable or not, but we've not had an offer since March, and that was roundly rejected and was the worst offer across public services in the UK.
Local authorities are trying to reach a 5% offer, but want more information from the Scottish and UK governments on the detail of any deal.
This has to come to a head, and the only way we are going to bring this to a head and bring this to a resolution is if the Scottish Government are prepared to stump up the cash to bring this dispute to an end. Like the Scottish Government have chronically underfunded local government.
We have now put an additional £140 million to local government leaders to help them make a revised and enhanced offer to local government workers, and we urge local government leaders to do that as soon as possible.
If no deal is reached, unions say more strikes are likely to be announced in the coming days. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Now, the first full-size Edinburgh Festival since the start of the pandemic is getting underway today. It's the biggest arts festival in the world, and more than 3,000 shows are scheduled over the next few weeks, bringing over 400,000 extra guests to the city. Well, Polly Bartlett is in the centre of Edinburgh for us tonight. Polly, what's the atmosphere like?
Well, Emma, the sun's been shining down on us all day here as the 75th Edinburgh Festival Fringe gets underway. More than 1 million tickets are expected to be sold across the course of the month, and there's a real party atmosphere here at the Assembly Gardens. Of course, there will be big celebrations here tonight, but it's not been easy to get to this point. Lockdown, COVID, and now Brexit are causing real staffing issues across the city. Staff here should be preparing for one of their busiest days of the year. But instead, this bar in the city centre has been forced to reduce its opening hours.
We all know the festival is booming and buzzing 7 days a week. And we are just frustrated that we can't do that. We don't have the bodies. Last thing we want to do is overwork any of our staff. So we've taken the decision to close the kitchen on a Monday and Tuesday. It's tough, but unfortunately our hands are very much tied.
This feeling is echoed across the city. Brexit and COVID uncertainty are being blamed for the issue.
It's like we've come out of one pandemic where we had government support with furlough and with Eat Out to Help Out and with the loans and the grants, and now we're into another pandemic and there's no life jacket, and that's terrifying.
But it's not just a problem in bars and restaurants. One of the city's top hotels only finished recruitment this week.
We have struggled like most hospitality businesses have. If I talk about my own department, it's taken a long time, but as of next Monday, I've got the same people in the department, or same number of people, as I did pre-pandemic.
As she watched street performers on the Royal Mile this morning, the Fringe's chief executive said more needs to be done.
I think staffing for everybody is an issue. It's a real challenge, and I know that the Fringe is no exception in that. So these are things that we're going to have to really look at and address post this year's festival. Look at where is that pipeline of young people coming through, who has left the industry, how can we draw people back in again, and just make sure that we're providing the training, the support and the fair wages to encourage people to come and work on what is really an extraordinary experience.
And while staffing shortages cause problems across the city, on the Royal Mile, there's no shortage of street performers.
I'm here in all my glory to revive my career here.
I'm so interested in arts from all over the world. I come from China and I have learned Chinese dancing.
It's good atmosphere,
good
very
vibe.
good. Electric atmosphere.
Oh, there you go. Those are the buzzwords we want to hear.
They hope their enthusiasm will ensure Fringe 2022 isn't a sobering experience for everyone. Those guys are right. There is a real buzz here in the centre of Edinburgh, and despite the serious warning in my package there, the businesses did want me to emphasise that they will be open as much as possible over the course of the month. There is so much going on here in Edinburgh. I've already been to see my first show, and I can tell you the Fringe, as we know it, is back.
It certainly is. Many thanks for that, Polly.
The campaign group Running Out Racism has launched a petition seeking urgent talks with the Scottish Government, Sport Scotland and Cricket Scotland. They say that's to implement further measures to tackle racism in sport and prevent it happening again. Well, our reporter Ollie Dickinson has been following the story. Ollie, what's the detail behind this?
Well, John, Running Out Racism are one of the groups that was involved in the review into Cricket Scotland. They say they want people who've experienced racism to form a key part of the planning moving forward. They want to see better collection of diversity data, and they want a date set for an investigation into those specific allegations of racism against specific individuals and clubs. Now, in terms of all sports, they want to talk to the Scottish Government. They want to see an independent regulator, an investigator introduced for sports governing bodies to, as they put it, prevent further issues from being swept under the carpet or hidden. They go on to say they want to see governing bodies get better monitoring about what's happening with their diversity policies. In essence, making sure that if a body has a diversity policy, it's being implemented.
I think that's been one of the big things that's been highlighted in this report, is not necessarily the failings at Cricket Scotland itself, but the fact that the governance in how we judge the equalities bar in sports has clearly not been high enough. And that's why we've asked for this to be put in place, because we certainly feel that that there's not been enough focus on what organisations are doing and not doing around equalities, and that's now got to change.
Well, the petition from Run Out Racism comes, if you remember, after the Sports Minister Marie Todd told STV News last week that all sports should be considering the Plan for Sport review and the implications it has for their disciplines. And the Conservative MSP Sandesh Gulhani said that he was calling for a parliamentary inquiry into the report's findings.
Ollie, thank you for that. Now, other stories across Scotland, and COVID-19 infections have dropped for the second week in a row. An estimated 1 in 20 people in Scotland had the virus in the week to July 26th. That's down from 1 in 19 the week before. The figures had previously risen for 7 straight weeks in the early summer.
A former SNP MP jailed for 2 years for embezzlement is to appeal against her conviction. Natalie McGarry was found guilty of embezzling nearly £25,000 from 2 pro-independence groups. The appeal court in Edinburgh has since confirmed papers have been lodged against both her conviction and sentence.
LGBT groups from across the political spectrum are calling for monkeypox to be treated as a public health emergency, warning it may become endemic here. 65 cases have been recorded in Scotland since May, with the majority of them in gay and bisexual men.
Injured seal pups have been flown from Alloa to a sanctuary in Shetland as part of a rescue mission. A water filter system at the Scottish SPCA Centre, critical to the rehabilitation, had broken down. The charity is raising money to replace the system.
It was about a 1 hour flight, and then they had to drive 60 miles from Sunborough up to the other end of Shetland, the mainland, to Hills Wildlife Sanctuary, where they arrived. So it was a long journey. It started out about 9 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't arrive here until about 6 o'clock in the evening. So it was quite stressful for them.
We've heard about concerns about the cost of living earlier. Well, there are more price hikes on the horizon for people in Glasgow, as parking charges across the city are set to rise in a bid to get more people to use public transport. Pay and display fees in hundreds of streets will go up, doubling charges in some areas of the city. Well, the cost of residential permits are also set to rise. Caroline Lewis has the latest.
Well, it's safe to say going to the shops is certainly more costly than it used to be, but if you're used to travelling by car, it's about to get a little bit more expensive. And that's because pay and display fees on hundreds of streets across Glasgow are going up by 20 pence at the end of the month. So on city centre streets like this, you could be paying as much as £1.20 for just 15 minutes. And if you pay on the app, well, that could be even more. Now, 20 pence here and there may not sound like a lot, but when we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, for some, every penny counts.
Up by 20p isn't a lot, but when you take into account everything else that's going on, and it's just one more charge, isn't it?
Well, it's a bad idea because everybody's struggling as it is, so the prices and everything's going up. So I don't think it's good.
I think it puts a lot of people off now, especially with Silverburn and stuff. Now it's free parking, so it's much better.
Well, it's all part of a push to get more of us using public transport, which in the long run, many of us will agree is a good idea. But I've been speaking to local businesses in the area, and their issue is the timing of this price hike. They fear it could put people off coming into town at a time that they're still recovering from the pandemic and dealing with escalating business costs themselves. The council disagrees. They say higher costs mean people will stay in town for a shorter period of time, meaning higher turnover of parking spaces, and in theory, more people could come into town. Whether their theory works out and that means a higher footfall, we'll have to wait and see.
Caroline Ruiz reporting. Now, Rahman is here with the Friday Sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Stevie Hamill admits it would be fantastic if he landed the Motherwell manager's job, but insists all of his focus is on getting 3 points against St Johnstone tomorrow. Elsewhere, while Rangers welcome back Alfredo Morelos, Celtic will be without one of their main midfielders for the trip to Dingwall. Our roundup of tonight's football news begins with the very latest at Fir Park. He's currently in the dugout on a caretaker basis, but could Stevie Hamill be appointed Motherwell manager permanently? The club will hold interviews next week with a view to making a quick appointment.
I'm in a position at the club that it's a senior football position. I'm grateful and privileged to be in the position I am just now, and I'm grateful every day for that. If that's to then progress into the first team manager, then fantastic. If that's what the club want and they feel it's the best, I feel like it's something I'm prepared to do.
How would he go down in the dressing room if he was to get the gig?
Probably well. So far, it's only been a week, so it's hard to tell, but so far the boys have enjoyed the week, enjoyed the week's training, enjoyed the result of the weekend, and everyone's got respect for him, so I think if he did get the job, it'd be good for everyone.
After starting their Premiership campaign with a win against St Mirren last week, Motherwell hosts St Johnstone tomorrow. Elsewhere, Celtic will be without Rio Hitati for the match against Ross County. The midfielder picked up a knock in the win over Aberdeen.
They're going to be aggressive with and without the ball, and that sets us up for a good challenge. But from our perspective, nothing really changes. We've just got to make sure we bring our best game and play our football, and when we do that, we know we're hard to stop.
After almost 5 months out through injury, Alfredo Morelos returns to the Rangers squad for the visit of Kilmarnock. Ahead of the clash, Killie have signed defender Giro Dorset on loan from Reading.
People quoted us saying about the tough start we've got. It's actually an exciting start, and everybody has to hear it. Kilmarnock, go there, have the personality to take part in the game, be honest, be as good as we can be, and then see where it takes us, because every team can be beaten.
Mark O'Hara misses St Mirren's trip to Aberdeen. Despite the Saints' loss last week, Stephen Robinson is happy with the team's progression.
We look in decent shape, as you say. You need to take your chances. What can we improve on? We need to take our chances. We need to hit the target more often with our chances. But I'm confident if we continue to do that, then we'll pick up results.
On Sunday, the Edinburgh Derby takes place at Easter Road, while Dundee United host Livingston. Well, what a night it was for Dundee United and former Rangers winger Glenn Middleton. Middleton scored a stunning goal against AZ Alkmaar to give United the advantage in their Europa Conference League qualifier. The return leg takes place next week. Now, there's been another gold for Team Scotland at the Commonwealth Games on day 8 in Birmingham, and once again it came from the Bowling Green. Ronnie Charters is there for us tonight.
Well, you join us once again at the Bowling Greens in Leamington Spa, where Team Scotland yet again have created history. Today it was the turn of the Parabowl mixed pairs to add to Scotland's medal tally. Now 8 gold medals for these Commonwealth Games, 3 of them coming from this view behind me. It was a clean sweep of gold medals in all Parabowl disciplines for Team Scotland, once again showing we are a top bowling nation.
We've worked really hard and it's paid off for that, because we've all worked together, we've practiced separately, then got together again, and it just seemed to click into place.
Our supporters were brilliant. We hardly heard the opposition. And what you want to do is, when you play a good shot and you get a roar, you just encourage you to play more.
And at 75 years of age, director George Miller becomes Scotland's oldest gold medalist.
What I want to do is use this to get messages across, like play bowls. Don't worry about how old you are. Play any sport, doesn't matter how old you are. Come in, enjoy it. It's a great, great game.
Election, bit of moral support as well. So yeah, no, it's a great job to have, and I really enjoy doing it actually.
And for Scotland's Parabowls coach Bob Christie, the 3 goals are a reward for years of hard work.
The work that we've put in, bringing it down to the players that played here and the directors, put a lot of effort, commitment, sacrifices, and the hard work is proved beyond belief. Absolutely fantastic. Really delighted for them.
Elsewhere, it was the end of the Commonwealth Games for Alex Tate-Marshall and the men's fours as they were beaten by Northern Ireland. Ronnie Charters, STV News at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham.
Great stuff. That, folks, is all your sport tonight. Have a great weekend. I will see you again next week.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Now, Philip has your weekend weather.
Hello, good evening. Well, if we take a quick look back on yesterday's stats, we reached a maximum high of 19.5 degrees Celsius at Lookers. It was a bit of a chilly night, and we dropped to a low of 2.5 at Balmoral. A maximum wind gust of 35 miles per hour was recorded at Stornoway, and quite a wet day across the northwest. 17 millimetres of rain at Achnagarth. Let's see what's in store for the weekend ahead. Here is the forecast.
The outlook for the day is calm and settled. TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
Well, as we head through the next couple of days over the weekend, we've got high pressure building in from the south and west. So that means central and southern parts of the country will see some dry and bright conditions at times. Unfortunately, further north, it does mean that further fronts will move across the top of that high, bringing with it some further cloud and showers. Back to just now, though, and as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, there are still 1 or 2 showers left over from the daytime. Eventually, though, those will start to ease and fade out, and for many, it will be turning dry with lengthy, clear spells. Then through the early hours of tomorrow morning, we've got the warm front spreading in from the west, and that's bringing with it some thicker cloud, strengthening winds and a band of rain. So temperatures across the far west dropping to lows of around 11 or 12 degrees Celsius. Elsewhere, under the clear skies, some rural spots could get down to around 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead to tomorrow, and slowly through the morning, that warm front will start to push eastwards across the country, bringing that rain with it. So a wet start to the day for many of us. That will eventually clear. The rain becomes confined mostly to the north and west of the country. For us, it will be turning dry and bright through the afternoon with 1 or 2 further showers. Temperature-wise, in the best of the brightness, feeling pleasantly warm, highs of 17 or 18 degrees. Those temperatures will be nudging up a degree or 2 as we head into Sunday, highs of 20 with further dry and bright conditions. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
And finally this evening, we heard from hospitality businesses at the Edinburgh Festival earlier on in the programme, but Laura Boyd is also there to find out more about the return of the Fringe and what it means to the performers taking part.
Live from, yes, a treehouse at the Assembly Gardens. Laura, what can we expect as this year's Fringe gets underway?
Nothing but glamour for me, John. Well, it is the 75th anniversary of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Obviously, it was back last year, but that was a much more scaled down event. This year, I don't know if you can see behind me, but it's certainly back in full swing with over 3,000 performances scheduled throughout August and acts coming from over 60 different countries. And I'm joined now by a Fringe favourite, Mr. Jason Byrne. Jason,
hey.
You've not quite done this 75 years, but you have done 25 or 26.
Yeah. I mean, I came here as a child. I am now a 50-year-old man. I've been here forever. And last year I was on a car park. So it's great to be on the top of a tree house and back in the venues with all the people. It's going to be great.
It feels good, doesn't it? And you've got 2 shows this year.
Yeah, I do. I've got my stand-up show in the McEwan Hall. Then I've got a show about my dad, a play called The Paddy Lama, where I actually play my father. So that's going to be fun.
Brilliant. And the atmosphere down there is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's great to finally smell the Scottish people up close. Do you know what I mean? Because they have been separated a lot, you know what I mean? But now the masks are off and everybody's hugging and breathing and laughing. Can you hear the laughter down there? It's great. Can't wait.
Lubna, as a Scottish performer, I can confirm that we smell beautiful, don't we? But for you, how is it good to be back?
I have to agree, we do smell absolutely gorgeous.
I know, you do.
And it's wonderful to be back with Jason, because we seem to meet every year, don't we? On shows.
And I was at Lubna's play last year, and that's one of the influences for me doing my play, because I seen her do a play about her family, and I went, oh my God, I'd love to do a play about my dad.
Thank you.
Lubna, you've got a show. It's starting on the 16th. Tell us about that.
It's called Tick Box. Semi-autobiographical story about my parents' journey from a middle-class life in Pakistan when my father got a scholarship to do a PhD in chemistry. And it's also just post-war as well. So I decided to bring my mum and 2 children, third one on the way, and they landed in Govan.
The glamorous Govan. We know that very well, Lubna, from STV. Well, Lubna and Jason and I are going to go and enjoy some of the performances down below. There is so much going on in Edinburgh throughout August. You're going to absolutely love it. There's so much, isn't there, guys?
Yeah, there's too much. I mean, 3,500 shows. What are we going to do? Just go to our show.
That's all you need.
Don't believe it.
Well, listen, there are performers down there just now. I think there's so much going on that even our John Mackay would be hard pushed not to crack a smile. What do you reckon, Emma? Take a look at this.
Good goal.
Try me.
I think you're giving it a bit of a corner of a smile there, John, are you? Something for everybody.
A weekend. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye for now.